Hi, and welcome to another episode of Nursing Your Way to Wealth, where a mental health nurse and an accountant talk about wealth creation, personal development, and financial independence in the UK to help you live the life you deserve.
Hello and welcome back. This is episode 73. Again, we've had another slight gap. This time it's my fault. I went on holiday last week and just didn't do any work whatsoever. So I spent the last 7 days or so in Tenerife, got back on Monday. So apologies for the lack of episode last week. So this time we're back and we're going to talk about financial independence and like planning for life, because we've talked a lot about the kind of the FI journey and how we get from A to B. A being not having much, and then B being having enough to retire. But life is the thing that goes on, and as you go through that journey, it happens on like autopilot sometimes. So we're going to think about, both Alex and I, how we plan for stuff that will happen in life, financial decisions as well, and which obviously are linked to other kind of life social decisions too. But before we kind of dig into that, both of us have got a reasonable or ridiculous. So, Alex, is there anything else you want to mention before you leave with your return on heartbeats? Not reasonable, ridiculous, wrong order. I'm out of practice.
Yeah, that's it. No, I think it'd be a really interesting episode. I think that's a really good point about I think with FI, you can get very obsessed about the end point and often not enjoy or be so focused on that you almost life passes you by in a way. And I think, there's certain big things that happen in life that, is important to plan for and enjoy them. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the discussion. But yeah, I can go with my return on heartbeats, um, which was so over the weekend. It was my parents' 40th wedding anniversary, and so me and my wife really helped my parents. So they held a big party. I had about 75 people at like a hall, and so we prepared a lot of food and serving people drinks and serving people food there. And then we went back to my parents' house, which was just like a family, the extended family. So there was about 25 people. And then I was in charge of the barbecue. So I was cooking for everyone on the barbecue after that. So it was a very busy day, but huge. It was nice to take some of the pressure off my parents. So then they were able to enjoy the time with their friends and family. Because they're normally the ones either behind the barbecue or in the kitchen making all the food and serving people. So yeah, really big return on heartbeats. That one was for me.
Yeah, that's huge. I can't imagine you cooking for like that many people on a barbecue. Um, yeah. So I've just been doing a little bit of googling whilst you were talking. So apparently the gift for 40 years of marriage is a ruby.
It is.
Um, and apparently there's a flower for every uh, like year of marriage. The 40th one apparently is gladioli, which I didn't know that. I don't even know what a gladioli looks like, let alone couldn't pick
No,
it
neither
out.
do I.
No, I just didn't know it either. Just come from some little googling. So who knows? Maybe you and I will get there one day to our respective wives, not each other. But still, it's interesting. So
Yeah.
yeah, like you're just taking some weight off of your mum and dad so they can enjoy actually being married 40 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it went well, it sounds like. No hitches.
It did. It did go really well. So everyone had a good time.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So yeah, really big return on heartbeats there.
Yeah, nice. All round. My one's not anywhere near as good as that, actually. I'm kind of regretting it. But over the week in Tenerife, like the weather was great. So I think it was like 29, 28 degrees or something most days. So one of my return on heartbeats is we rented an apartment by the sea, and it had a ladder. Like you pull a rope and it just folds down onto the beach below or into the sea, depending on the tide. Um, and part of what I did whilst being in Tenerife is to try a load of local coffee shops and cafes. As coffee is one of my things that I really enjoy. And one of the times I got I got it right, and I found like what I think is the perfect cafe by the sea. And I had one of my favourite coffee drinks, which is called a cortado. I think it stems from Italy, but it's an espresso shot and then some version of milk on top. But it's kind of like a big shot glass worth, so it's like a 50-50 ratio to coffee and milk. So I had an oat variety of one of those, and I just drank it sitting outside, and I was watching a load of people try and stand up on surfboards as they were going, along with with the waves, and there were loads of kids, loads of adults, all trying to kind of learn to surf and like windsurfing and stuff. And yeah, it was a really pleasant evening. I was just having that. It was really, really good. And I saw a load of kids kind of surf, and they would try, they would go, they would stand up, they'd fall off, and they would try again and again and again, and literally until it got too dark. And that's only when people were coming in. They would just come repeating, repeating. And I think it was just a good like metaphor for life, really. That if you struggle with something initially, continue persevering, and each time you learn from it.
I think that's a really nice message. Yeah, and
It
it
was
sounds idyllic. You painted a very nice picture there, by the way.
It was great. So I tried I think 8 or 9 different coffee shops or like cafes in Tenerife. The coffee there's it's quite dark roasted beans. They're a little bit bitter sometimes. Um, so I found one that had some oats or soy milk. So just a blend of those was really really good. But it was just nice, kind of sitting. If there's a tiny kind of a little breeze, there's waves crashing against rocks, and there's like 20, 30, 40 people like, trying to surf, windsurfing, etc. In the south of Tenerife. It was good. I enjoyed
Yeah,
it. I felt right peaceful.
it sounds nice. And I've never tried a cortado, so maybe I'll add that to my list of things to do.
Yeah. Cortado is my favourite. So normally at home I just drink straight espresso. And what this it was so good that I've bought some barista like oat milk at home, and I tried to replicate it. I can probably at some point replicate the drink. What I probably can't do is replicate the environment.
Yeah.
Um, but I will.
Yeah,
I will try. A lot of it's in like the steaming of the oat milk. But I think I'll get there, and I'll just have to replicate it by sitting outside my garden on a summer evening, perhaps. Um,
that's it.
yeah. No, it's really good. So, um, yeah, back to kind of fire and life planning. So the partly the reason I was able to spend like 22, 24 something amount of euros on buying coffee out of the house every day. Like I could have made it in the accommodation. There was like some kit for it and stuff, like a mocha pot, um, and stuff like that. But I was like, actually, I'm not going to bother making it myself. They can do a far better job for very little. So the coffee there was, I think the most I spent was €1, €1 60, and the cheapest one I got was €1 10. Um, Less than half the price of anything in England, and certainly with milk as well. So really not going to break the bank. But I planned for it. So what I did, and you might like this, I don't know, a little bit off topic, but sort of there, is when we drove to Gatwick, we had the choice of either getting the train, hellishly expensive, uh, B, parking on like the airport long stay or short stay parking or something. That would have been 90, I think 95 or £96 for the week. Or we used a thing called Park on My Driveway, which was 40, I think £43 or something. And then we had a 10-minute walk with our cases to the Gatwick airport. And then we got a 2-minute shuttle between terminals, and then we're in where we need to be to fly. So I saved a little bit of money there. So I felt very little or no guilt about buying coffee out the house every day.
That's really interesting that you mentioned that. I think that's a really good idea. And we often use is it Just Park that you use for
Yeah, it
the
is.
yeah, when we like go to Brighton, we'll use it. And we actually had a bit of on the way to my parents, we went to Blackpool for a couple of nights, which was good fun. And we parked in
Mm,
Just Park. We were using a Just Park there, but it never actually crossed my mind to use it for the airport.
yeah.
And funnily enough, my reasonable or ridiculous is whether it's reasonable or ridiculous to rent out. We have a parking space. We have two parking spaces, and whether to rent one of them out.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll touch. We can touch on that
Yeah,
later,
yeah,
but I've also thought of the same thing. I suppose it depends what amenities you've got around you. Like if you live close to a station
yeah.
and train parking's horrendous, then maybe. Like so, the one we use for Gatwick, we're flying from the North Terminal, but this was near South. Um, it's the South Terminal is much closer geographically to our house, so we parked there for £43 for 7 days, which is, I think, pretty reasonable. And the guy who owned the house, he divided his driveway, his stone driveway, up with bricks into spaces, and he says like park in this one, it's C or whatever, and park as close to the house as you can. So I did. It saved us. I mean, 43 spend when it could have been like 95,
Mm,
96 is quite a lot. 50 quid,
50 quid,
maybe.
yeah.
Yeah. Paid for more than coffee and a bit of like breakfast, I suppose, whilst I was away. But I think, I think it's reasonable. He did say to me, next time if you need it, come direct because it's cheaper. It's like £6 a day compared with 8 or something. But this guy was busy. Like every space was booked except mine whilst I was there. And when I came back, again, full driveway, apart from my own car. So with totally different cars. So this guy seems to be doing well out of it. I think it's because it's close to the airport. Like it's a 10-minute walk to the terminal, and you can actually walk along the train line. There's a little cut through. So if you put it into Google Maps, it says like 40 something minutes of walking. But I read all the comments for his parking spaces, and people are like, oh, it's a 10-minute walk to Gatwick South via this route. And I was like, cheers, mate. Much appreciated. Saved us loads of time. So I think he's mega busy. So if you've got something like that close to you, do it. You could even do it and see what happens. Try it for 6 months. If
Absolutely.
you get no one books it, then it's probably not an idea. If you run off your feet, maybe it is.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because we live near the train, right next to the train station. So,
Oh,
yeah, so we're
have a
gonna.
look to see how much day parking is then for the train.
It's £6 a day by so it varies. So if it was £6 in one car park, and it's £8 in another for the day.
Okay, I would pitch yours at
So
4 then and see what
four
happens.
to 5 quid, yeah. So we'll
Um,
see. Yeah,
yeah, even if it was just the working week.
it would be. Yeah, it's dirt cheap on the weekend because
Yeah,
nobody's going
I
into.
mean, it could make you. I mean, £4 a day times 5 is 20 quid a week, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's
hmm,
that £1,000 a year.
maybe. Who
Yeah,
knows? That could get you a little bit more of a way. It might knock. I
yeah.
don't know. How much would £1,000 a year knock off your working life? Couple of weeks, maybe, if you can be bothered
Maybe
with
a
it.
few weeks. Yeah, yeah.
Try it.
Pays for the some of the day-to-day living, doesn't it? Yeah,
Yeah, might buy your fuel for the month, or I don't know, car wash, uh,
that's
or
it.
something. Put it back into
Yeah,
car expenses. Yeah.
that's it.
I mean, I think it depends. Like, try it. I would say try it and see if it makes a difference. So, in terms of that, actually fits quite well into like life planning and stuff. So, if you know you've got some stuff coming up, like you're going on holiday in a year's time, or you've got, I don't know, some car expenses, or you've got something annual that comes up, like we've always said, plan for it. You have expenses that are annual, say, I don't know, insurance, professional fees, anything like that. Divide them by 12 if you don't have the cash flow already, just to kind of knock that one out. And then you have the money for it. And what you could do as well is store that money somewhere that generates you interest. So if you need £120 per year for a fee of some sort, you put £10 a month into a high interest account. And by the end of the year, you might have 125, whatever. You can pay your bill and then have a £5 spare, something like that. But in terms of like, my main question, Alex, for you here is planning, is around reducing investments for bigger expenses. So thinking something like a replacement car that's maybe well into 5 figures, or a house extension, house move, just something that's like it's a punchy figure that you'd think, oh, actually, I've got say 2 years to plan for this, and it's going to cost me 40 grand or something, or you've got a little bit longer, I don't know, in terms of time frame. Are you an advocate of reducing? I mean, is it reasonable to reduce your investment amounts? Say you are, say you're investing £600 a month, which is similar to what I do. Is it reasonable then for me to reduce it to £200 or £300 a month in order to save for a short term kind of spend? Or would you say find that money elsewhere?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, and I think one that probably is quite common to a lot of people our age who are kind of on the FI path and then have got, yeah, a house renovation, I think is probably a good example, or yeah,
Hmm.
get on a car, or you want to go on an extravagant holiday. I think it take a to zoom out. I think the different options that are available. So one is to, or you could borrow the money. So you go to the bank or get, get a loan to pay for it, and then you pay that off. So you could do that quicker. But I think, but both of us are not against, no, definitely against going into debt for
Don't like the
things. So
sound
I
of
think
it.
that a no-no. You could still, if you knew that it might be in a year or 2 years' time you need the money, there is an option to still put it into your investments and then pull it out of the account later. We know how volatile the stock market is though, however, and it's never the right place if you know that you need to spend a certain amount of money at a certain time. The stock market volatility is definitely not your friend, and therefore putting it into
Mhm.
cash is the right, would be the right solution. I think it's the broader questions of the implications of what that means then for because I guess your investment accounts, by not investing as much each month, the you then don't have your pot won't grow as fast. Where it's things such as say like with houses or where you're building or developing an asset. So the the fact is you're still like I guess putting money into something that will have an underlying value and is likely going to go up in value over time. So if you're doing a house extension or a house renovation or putting in a new kitchen or bathroom or something, those are all things which ultimately help to increase the value of that asset. And so often, and it is my accounting brain working, you're not necessarily like it's not an expense in that once you've spent this money, it's then gone, or you bought something that is going to just depreciate and be worthless in 5 years. You're transferring, I guess, your cash into, rather than putting it into your investment asset, it goes into your house asset. If you were doing an extension or doing a bathroom renovation, and the value of that asset is likely to increase over time. So it's a transfer of wealth between your pots. The stock market will probably do better than the house price over the time period, but it's not as if you decided to halve your investment contribution and spend that money on things which won't be worth anything in 5 years' time. So if you were to go out and spend loads of money on, I know, an iPhone or a laptop or a cool speaker or something, that those things will just depreciate in value. So I think it's you do the right thing. I think to in that regard, I guess it's a bit of a caveated answer in that I think as long as it's going to something that will increase in value over time, then I think that makes sense. I think where things are decreasing or they'll be depreciating assets, cars are a huge topic, and we've obviously done a couple of episodes on them. I think it's been sensible with the car that you buy. So to minimize the depreciation, that I don't go out and buy a brand new car or a car that's 6 months old. Maybe buy one at 4, 5, 6 years old. It'll still be perfectly fine. But then you're missing out on a lot of that depreciation. So you're losing less, but you'll still lose money. Whereas yeah, with houses, I think that tends to be something that rises. But I think being disciplined and saving and keeping that cash ring fenced for that activity, for that big thing, I think is the complete right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, that was my thinking. Like, first off, because of the type of kind of brains we have, I guess, or people we are, we're not going to borrow. Like, I don't want to borrow money at really, if I can help it, any interest rate in order to afford something like that and then end up paying more than, like, say, like, for example, a house extension costs like 40 grand or something. If you borrow that over a couple of years at a percentage, it's going to cost you far more than that. And I think, as we've said before, like loan companies can be a bit secretive about how much it costs you. You can find it, but you have to kind of dig a little bit. So I think it would be something that we would probably save the majority of it for, and then do things in stages. So the downside is you can either do it now and it'd be more expensive, perhaps, or you can wait a little bit, do it in sections or stages, and it might work out cheaper. You just have to put up with. I'm just looking right at the floor at the minute and looking at a big hole in
Mm.
my floor where we've had our fireplace
Yeah.
renovated, and it's been like that for a couple of weeks now. Um, yeah, and we could have had it done all in
Yeah.
one go, but it would have cost like a lot at that point, because at some point now we're going to end up renovating the whole, like the floor will totally get changed, because it's well, quite old, and it could do with a better quality like wood being put down. Um, but then I suppose you run into this factor of, well, because you've done one thing, like the Diderot effect, you've done one thing, you need
Mm.
to do another thing, you need to decorate. So it's keeping kind of an eye on stuff like that. And at the same time, I guess like putting it off could mean that building materials go up in price. It could mean they come down. It could mean that labour, like building, goes up as well. Government, like the amount you'll pay in labour. I suppose there's just ways around it. But
Yeah.
my thinking here is it would cost us less, I think, to extend and renovate, compared with moving to another house, stamp duty wise. And trying to find something that ticks all our boxes in Kent is horrendously, like, it's unaffordable for us. So we have to make do with, actually, I'm not going to live in the same type of house that my mum and dad brought me up in, for if and when my wife and I have children. It's just totally unattainable. It's a different time frame that they brought in, different landscapes. So I think our thinking
Mm.
now is to make this house as livable as it could be, um, for a figure. So we don't go into debt. We do it kind of well, but reasonable, keeping an eye on kind of costs, etc. My wife would say that I've got expensive taste as well, rather than her for it. But what my thinking here is to reduce slightly my investment contributions, and she would probably reduce hers as well. So it would free up probably £500 a month or so. Combine that with the other amounts we do
Yeah.
save, and we could probably save 10 grand a year, something like that. That's if our jobs stay the same. She's
Hmm.
working on a promotion, and obviously I'm always on the lookout for better paying jobs. So we could have the magic trifecta and have some extra cash from all places. But I understand why you've said it, and I think I agree. Um, I agree with all of it. Um, the one thing I hadn't thought about is you said it's a transfer of wealth from spendable cash into an asset. We've not
Mm.
lost that money. We've not set it on fire. It's just made our house more livable, I guess, and hopefully more valuable.
Yeah, and I think if the option as well is if it is the you do the renovation or you move house, if you move house, moving house is so expensive, and
Mm,
a lot of those transaction costs, like say like stamp duty, you pay that and that's just gone. The money's gone. It's an absolute
yeah,
expense, and often the value of stamp duty, you can do some really nice renovations. So it's almost actually it could have a double effect where you're still you live in the same house, you improve it, so it goes up in value, plus it makes it more livable and more long term, and therefore you avoid the need to buy something more expensive. Um,
yeah.
and and I think the other thing that's important for me as well is the fact that you'd still be investing, because I think, and it's a real British problem, but people are so obsessed with home ownership and the value and having all of their money in their house that they're actually really undiversified, and they
Yeah.
just have a huge all their money is in the UK property market, which is not ideal. You want to be much broader and have ideally more money in your equities and stocks and shares than you do in your house.
It's a bit mental, isn't it? Like you hear stories of certainly old people pensioners now, for example, and their house is worth £1 million or something. but they've got no spendable cash, so they're literally living
Yeah,
like a poor, not poverty, but a poorer lifestyle than they need to because all of their money is tied up in bricks. And you've said before you can't buy food with your bricks.
yeah.
It's
It's
difficult to turn your house into an asset.
Yeah, and it always gets me when people are like, "Oh, my house is my pension." It's like your house is your pension if when you're 65 or whenever you retire, you sell your house and move into something much smaller or well, not necessarily smaller, much cheaper
Yeah,
to then free up the cash. Like just because you're sat on a
it
lot.
could be worse as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, like if you spent all that time amassing your buying your house and like say like we're talking about now, renovating it, making it perfect for you, to then have to sell it to continue to live, like that doesn't. Oh, I don't want to be in that boat at all.
yeah, absolutely. And
And a lot of people have said that to me as well. Like people in the trades, they're like, "But my house is my pension. I'll just sell it and move somewhere else." I'm like, "Where are you going to live?" Like
because you
it's
often
only
have to be, it has to be quite an extreme move, as in like you go from the south of the country to the north of the
yeah.
country, or you go to Wales, or you go to Scotland, or you go from a four-bedroom house to a terrace house or something in the same area.
Hmm.
That kind of about detached to a terrace or something like that to free up then the amount of cash that you would need to survive on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, if you free up 200K, maybe, which I think would probably be generous, because you've still got to have somewhere to live, right? And you're still going to have some bills. That isn't going to last a
Yeah,
huge amount of time if you're
yeah,
spending £3,000, £4,000 a month.
no, definitely not. Yeah, and I think it's a really quite naive viewpoint. From people. So I think, yeah, back to your example with renovating your house, just that for me, you're still boosting and investing, which is important. One other thing that you could do to get if you wanted to do it sooner, and it's a bit of a grey area really, but I think because you're very disciplined with your money, and I'd say it's something that me and my wife have done before, is if you know you can take out like a interest-free credit card, buy the thing, but then you don't often get a couple of years interest-free on those purchases, and you only need to pay like a monthly minimum. But at the same time, you're saving or you have the cash sat in a cash account, um, which then generates interest, and then the interest that you generate, oh, so you basically know you got the money, it just parks it, you borrowed it for free, you managed to get the thing that you want sooner, and then at the end of the term you just pay off your debt and then you're left with the interest that you would have had anyway. I think it's a thing that I read on Martin Lewis. It's called stoozing, I think, from memory. So it's slightly more you need to be very disciplined with it, but it's a way of doing it's a bit like where people like with mortgage payments, if you can earn more in a cash account than you can on your mortgage rate, it makes sense sometimes rather than paying off a mortgage early, you can just keep it in that cash account. So actually you generate more interest than you would on your mortgage. And then plus you then have got the liquidity of the cash that you can go and spend that if you need it.
Yeah, so like from a raw numbers point of view, uh, you should be left with more at the end of something like that.
Correct.
Either kind of option. I think the bit that doesn't take into account is us as human beings and
Hmm.
our ability to talk ourselves, justify anything to us.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't. I don't know if I'd want to put myself in that position.
Yeah, and I think it's very much on a spreadsheet. That's what the maths tells you. In reality, exactly as you said, there's a huge behavioral element in between that.
Yeah, I mean, would you trust yourself to do that?
Oh yeah,
You
I
would.
yeah, I'm super disciplined with it. Um,
Yeah, and I suppose it depends if you've got any other available cash, doesn't it? If it's absolutely all of your discretionary income gone and you
100%.
just have to change your lifestyle, that's a different story. That money's going to start looking very alluring, especially if you can see it
Yes.
when you log into your like banking app or whatever. Um, if it isn't going to perhaps alter your lifestyle too much, then maybe that's a different story. I don't know if my credit limit will allow. extensions worth of like cash flow. I might be able to put some of it on there actually. And there's an argument that you could generate some kind of reward and or points, cashback or something. Um, Maybe on materials, something like that, it could help. Yeah, I think one other thing that I've just thought about is for something like this, if you're planning a big expense, please stay in your pension scheme.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Otherwise, like you're going to end up like if you come out of the pension scheme, you're going to have some extra cash. You will get used to it, and it's very difficult to kind of opt back in. Don't if and actually as well on this, if your plan and you're listening to this, your plan is your pension is your house. Please provide yourself some other form of kind of buffer cash input in terms of like a pension scheme, especially if you're self-employed. Um, you don't want to be the person who has to sell their house because they've run out of money, has to move away from the area that they like, or just leave themselves with a pot that yes, you could buy an annuity, but there's so many variables here. Like if you don't have a pension right now,
Hmm.
start putting something into
Yeah.
it for sure. Yeah, so that's another thing I wouldn't do is I would never opt out of a pension to pay for something short term. It would just take longer for me to save that money up.
Yeah. I think that is, I think if you're in that position, then you basically can't afford to do any extension or anything like that. You need to build
Yeah,
up that's the way I would look at it, that you need to take care of your future self and build up that bucket before you do anything else for your current self. Um,
it's actually a really good point. It could be like a pipe dream at this point. It could be the beginning. This could be the beginning of a plan to get you from wherever you want to be to wherever you want to go. Like in terms of a house extension, and it kind of understand where you need to be. If it's going to cost 80 grand and you don't have 80 grand and you can't start it, or you don't have a plan to get yourself from 0 to 80. And we know those are big numbers, but still, I think planning it has to be the start of it. Otherwise, it's just like you might as well just look at Rightmove and you end up looking at £4 million houses and you're like, well, I'd have done the kitchen slightly differently or
mm,
whatever. It
yeah.
becomes a dream rather than a reality. So turn them into realities. So I think it's, but I mean, planning has to be there. If you have discretionary disposable income, you're doing well,
Mhm.
usually by most metrics. So I would say stay in your pension, and the other things like you can reduce your like your investable amounts so long as you commit to yourself that you will re-increase them once you're done. Um, I mean, there is an argument for borrowing. We're not kind of on the borrowing path just because purely financially it would cost you more from that. I mean, loads of things can happen in life. So, say for example, I borrow it on a punchy credit card, for example, I then lose my job. I'm then in a big pickle at that point. So I'm more of a fan of at least covering, I would say, 90% of it in cash um, and doing whatever you can yourself, I guess, as long as it's kind of safe to do, like labouring, etc. Although I don't want to be one of those homeowners that just gets in the way of the tradesperson.
No, I think
I just find you really
I
annoying.
think things like clearing out your house and stuff that's stuff that you can do fairly safely. But yeah, I don't want to be the one. But I think yeah, in the context of like with Fi, and I think the way you've described it is exactly right. I think there is we're in a very niche, I guess, movement in a way, in that obviously
Mm,
the less you invest in your stocks and shares, and that it will push back a retirement date potentially. But the thing is, you're spending the money on something that will, your wealth will still be increasing because of it. And and the fact that you're considering it in this way, and it's a considered, thought through, um, I guess, transaction and planned for and saved for prudently, I think is is telling of how kind of yeah how that you're going to make the right thing, the right decision for you. And it's not all about optimizing a stocks and shares ISA. This, it's life and enjoying it. And I think but I think that the default isn't, well, I've got all this disposable income. I'm going to just go max out the amount of money I can borrow and buy a bigger house and put all my money into that. And then my property is my pension. like that, which
Yeah,
is
no,
seems to be the default route to a lot of people, and friends of mine as well are very much in that. They're absolutely redline themselves, and they've got lovely houses, but it's like that's all you got.
at what cost?
And exactly right. So, but I think the way you're approaching it is completely right.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of the last thing I'll mention here is it's a balance of things. Like, yes, it costs a lot, and yes, it might push the day that I can formally retire or step away from full time or any type of work. Perhaps it might push that back a little bit. But say that's in 10 years' time, for example, I'll have had a house that's much easier and nicer to live in for the next 10 years. So as a trade off, I would say that that is worth it to have a more enjoyable life now, to work an extra year, maybe two. It could be five. I don't know of your life, and
Yeah,
everything actually is a trade off. Like if you spend money in one place, you can't spend it somewhere else. And I think just following the steps we've discussed and having a good financial kind of grounding will get you. It gives you these choices. They're not pipe dreams. They're what actually can we do to solve these things. Yeah. Got one last thing I'll mention. You mentioned something earlier about cars and like buying particular cars and stuff. Not buying expensive ones. So got back from holiday on my first drive out of my car to pick up actually a chainsaw from being serviced from a local chap down the road. His kind of business is there. Had a flat tire. There was a nail in it and a huge hole in the side, so not repairable. Needed another one. Um, Changed it for a like my spare thing in the boot in a garden centre car park. Went to the tyre place, and my tyre was £99. There was another car there in front of me that needed two rear tyres, and I think he was talking through like his options with the one of the employees or something there, and he was like, budget one would be like £200, the mid range is 270 something I think, and then a premium one's like well over £300. I was like, oh my god, I'm very glad I own my old Volvo and I don't own whatever. I think it was some kind of SUV, big, massive wheels, tiny looking tires.
yes, that's it. You often see like really massive cars, and they've got these like tiny, like almost slick tires that they've got on them.
Yeah, and I was like, and he said to me like, I'll get you a quote for your tire, and I was like, I mean, either way, I'm here. I'm pretty much going to pay for
Uh,
it.
yeah.
And he was like 99. Is that okay? And I was like, yeah, that's fine. And then the next, as he was kind of fitting it to me, someone else in the team was talking to this other guy, and you could see like the decision making, like the cogs turning in his mind. And I was like, if you're thinking like 200 and something pounds is a budget tire for something that probably weighs north of 2 tons, and maybe you transport your family in it, uh, yes, that's not a decision I'd want to make.
Yeah.
It's about, I think, whether you can afford to run every aspect of a car you're buying, not just the
Yes.
purchase price as well.
I think that's it. I think that's something that is always overlooked.
Yeah,
Um, because it's yeah, certainly when you start to get to the high end cars, and like you need different brakes and tires and the service, and you can only service it at that garage and all
yeah,
that stuff.
exactly. It can get very
It's
expensive very,
an
very
expensive
quickly.
hobby. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. Um, okay, so I think we might do some fine life planning updates kind of as I go through this house extension process, pitfalls and wins or anything like that as we go.
Reasonable or ridiculous?
Alex, I know you've got a reasonable ridiculous. I've got one for you as well that I've thought up. It's to do with my holiday in Tenerife and an item of clothing I found in a secondhand store. But would you like to go first or me?
But I think we probably covered mine around the just park thing and whether to put my drive on it. So I think it's probably reasonable to try. So I think that's so I'll have a look at that.
Yeah, I would say try it. I'd give it
Yeah,
3 months, 6 months, depending on what the
yeah,
administration is like, etc. I would try it and see if you like it and you're happy with that, go for it. If not, and someone crashes into your house trying to park, different story.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. That's
but
it.
yeah, I would. Well, hopefully that's not going to happen. But I would try and see. Give
Perfect.
it 3 months initially, and then have another another decision. Do you continue? Do you not?
And we can do
Um,
I'll give an update when it's
yeah, and it's not permanent, is it? You could do it for 3 months and get 4 bookings and be like, well, that was all right. I'll
yeah,
continue. Or you could find it absolutely hellish and then you
yeah,
stop. Um,
that's it.
yeah, it would be additional income, not necessary income.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay, so very quickly, then my one. As I was wandering around, kind of looking for coffee one morning, I went into a secondhand store run by two Spanish ladies, and I only went in because there was a lady chopping up like watermelons and papaya and stuff by the door, wrapping it in cling film and then selling it by weight. So yeah, bit odd. Not that you'd see in England at all, but bought some papaya, and I got intrigued by just the array of stuff in the store. I mean, you could get there's literally anything in here. If you want an ice cream, they've got it in the freezer. If you want some kind of niche dinner service, they've got that on a shelf somewhere. If you want an inflatable kayak, also got that. Like literally,
yeah.
really like an eclectic mix of stuff. So right at the back, there was next to some like lamps or something, and there was a surfboard on the roof. But there was this little rail of clothes, and I was like, "Well, I'm here. I'll have a look and see." And I found a blue and white striped cotton shirt. The badge on it says Calvin Klein. It's got like a CK initial in white, which is not obvious. It's kind of not like blaringly obvious, like changing colour to the main shirt. And I looked at it, and I picked it off the shelf, and this lady was like, "Would you like to try on?" And I was like, "Oh, I can't say no. It'll be rude." So I ended up in the bathroom of this place trying on a shirt that I hadn't originally thought about, and it fitted me very well. So I was like, "Well, I'll ask her how much it was." It was €2.
Oh wow.
And I was like, this is too cheap. Is it legit? Is it not? The stitching looked good. You can tell with lined shirts, right? If they're well made,
Mm.
the bit where the arm attaches to like the shoulder bit and the bit where your the upper back bit attaches to the lower portion, if all those lines are straight, I would say that's a good quality, well made shirt. So it was like that. It all checked out. So I bought it for €2. Do you think that's reasonable or not?
I think it's reasonable. I think €2 is you'll probably earn that in interest whilst you were in the shop. So I think more than justified. And the fact that you thought it was real, or
I
if it is
did.
real, it still might be real.
It
I don't
didn't
know.
look obviously fake to me.
Yeah. So
Like
I
all the stitching was good. Like the
yeah,
material felt nice as well. Um,
I think
yeah,
that's completely reasonable.
yeah. I mean,
I
I
think
also
anything
forgot to
for that.
pack my trainers, and we planned a couple of mountain hikes. So I either had boat shoes or um, like sandals to walk in. So I did end up having to buy another pair of trainers for €36 whilst I was there. Um, so maybe not so much of a reasonable thing, but that's because I forgot to pack them. My wife told me to pack them, and I did not.
Well, there's a lesson for you.
Yeah, exactly. Listen to your wife. Pack your trainers. Do you want to do a quick summary?
Yeah, I can do a summary. So we started off discussing the return on heartbeats, which was we both had one of them. One of them was mine around helping out my parents on their 40th wedding anniversary, and then Alex, you were enjoying the cortado coffee in the. I think you had 9 different coffees across your holiday. And so I'm definitely going to try one of those cortados next time I go to a coffee shop. The main body of the show was really around so how do big life financial decisions and interact with one another. So this one was really around house renovations and extensions and what the right way is to go about doing that. So there's obviously lots of options. One from have it now and borrow some money, which we're not really for. The other one is, you divert some of your monthly kind of wealth building money to go to rather than going into your stocks and shares ISA, it goes into a cash pot to then fund the extension. Um, and we'd mentioned a little bit around stoozing, so putting some money on a interest-free credit card and then use your cash to earn interest to basically pay off the debt at the end of the interest-free term, which is it works very mathematically on a spreadsheet, but potentially not so when there's a human in the middle of it. And a big credit limit to entice you. So I think on the whole, life, it's important to enjoy the journey. FI is not just all about optimizing a stocks and shares ISA, and so hopefully that's helped. If people are in a similar situation and considering it, something like this, then I think that's hopefully given some food for thought. And then, yeah, reasonable or ridiculous, my idea of renting out my spare car parking space on Just Park, it seemed reasonable to give it a try, and then we can evaluate. You can always turn it off if you don't want to, and then whether or not it was reasonable or ridiculous for Alex to buy a €2 Calvin Klein shirt on holiday, which I think everybody will probably agree is reasonable. I think that was everything.
Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't add anything more. What I might do actually for the hive mind here is just take a picture of my shirt, and some more knowledgeable people than me can tell me if they think it's real. Annoyingly, that part of the label has been cut out. Like the bottom label that's got like the care instructions on is gone, but who knows? I'm going to wear it because I think it's nice. Okay, that's again an excellent summary. I'm always surprised that you don't make notes of these because I do, and you've mentioned like everything that I've written down. So your brain is something else.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Right, thank you, my friend, and I'll see you next week for episode 24.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
None of what we discuss on the show is to be considered financial or health advice, and we recommend you always do your own research or consult an independent financial advisor or a doctor when making your financial or health decisions.